Hi kids and welcome to Yupp Master. Today we're going to be starting with the topic of phylum Chordata. Until now, if you've attended all of our videos until now, we have covered the topics of the invertebrates, that is of the non-chordates. We covered all the phyla over there, and the last lecture we have covered about the hemichordata. Alright, so today we're going to be starting with phylum Chordata, and today's lecture is going to be all about the general characteristics, that is what exactly, if at all, you're going to call that organism as a chordate, then which are the actual body visceral organs, which are the parts of the body, which are the actual structures which need to be present in that organism in order to call it as a chordate, and also we will see that those structures, a little bit of details in them too. So stay with us and let's begin. So when we talk about phylum Chordata, first of all, chordates means it involves us as well, okay? Mammals also, the birds around you, the reptiles around you, all of these are called as chordates. Now, why are they exactly called as chordates? Just imagine, just remember actually. When we began with the phylum, when we began with the non-chordates, okay? Over there, they were called as non-chordates because they did not have a structure, which was a very important structure. It was a structure which was developed right from the embryo, and that structure was called as the notochord. So, because of the absence of the notochord, those were called as non-chordates. Now what we're coming to is that these are animals which have notochords, and the animals which have notochords, we're going to be calling those as the chordates. Alright, so let's begin with the phylum Chordata. Now, when we talk about chordates, these are those organisms which are possessing a notochord, okay? And we also see that the chordates are actually believed to descend from the echinoderms. You remember the echinoderms? Well, the echinoderm have larvae-like ancestors, okay, during the period of Precambrian period. Now, so this is basically showing us that echinoderms are, or the larvae of echinoderms have actually, as a course of evolution, given rise to phylum Chordata. Alright, okay, so let's continue ahead. Now, when we talk about chordata, there are basically two divisions to that we can have. One is a protochordata and second one being the vertebrates. Alright, when we talk about the protochordates, these are including the tunicates and the landslets. Now, what are tunicates? What are landslets? You stay here, keep watching my videos, and you'll see in the next lecture that is what is tunicates and what is landslets. Remember, today is only about the general characteristics. Until you don't know the general characteristics of chordates, it will be difficult for us to actually go into the details. So, today is only general characteristics. Then, when we talk about vertebrates, vertebrate basically means that they're going to have a vertebral column. We all know this. But what is it that's giving rise to this vertebral column? It is that notochord. So, what this basically means is that when I'm saying that chordates can be either a protochordate or it may be a vertebrate, then in these protochordates, okay, the notochord is not going to be developing into a vertebral column. But when I talk about these vertebrates, then definitely yes, the notochord is going to develop into a vertebral column. So, these vertebrates include, which are the organisms that are included here? There is first a group of organisms we will be seeing that's called as cyclostome, okay. After cyclostome, we have the fishes. After the fishes, there are amphibians. Then I guess you know the rest, right? Tell me the order. Fishes, amphibians, then comes reptiles, aves and mammals. Okay, so that's why I told you that when we talk about chordates, then it is none other than us as well. Alright, so these are all what is falling under vertebrates. Alright, now coming back to general characteristics only. Chordates, well, most of them are aquatic, okay. Some are also amphibious and some are terrestrial as well, okay. So amphi means both. So amphibious means that these are going to be organisms which would be surviving in water also and on land as well. So some are amphibious or terrestrial animals, okay. They may show variation in the size and shape of their bodies, alright. So basically, we see that their body plan, all the chordates, the normal body plan is going to be the same, alright. That is, we know what are the different body plans, don't we? we have a body plan called as either you can have a cell aggregate like we had seen in Porifera, or we can see that the body plan is a blind sac. Okay, but over here when we talk about chordates, the body plan is none other than the tube within tube. So we see that all the chordates are following the same body plan, but there may be variation in the size and the shape of their bodies, although there will be a similarity in their basic body plan. Okay, all right. So that was about the body plan of the chordates. Now we also see that the first, okay, and the second largest animals on this earth, the first and second largest animal, these are both going to be, or rather both of these are members of the phylum Chordata, first and second. All right, so let's see what that is. Look at here, look at this here. What does this look like? Isn't this the blue whale? And what is the scientific name for the blue whale? You've got to remember the scientific names. Remember, Kingdom Animalia means all about scientific names. That's how the MCQs come. So over here, blue whale, look at the scientific name. It is Balanoptera musculus. Okay, and look at this one here. This is Rhinodon typhus. So here we have got in front of us the two largest animals on this earth, and both of these are belonging to the members of the phylum Chordata. All right, now we continue ahead that if at all I want to say that a particular animal or a particular organism is belonging to the phylum of Chordata, then my main objective would be that there needs to be basically 4 salient features present. Okay, which are these 4 salient features? Let's see here. This diagram that you see here, wherever you see, this is actually going to be representing the basic structure of any chordate. Okay, any chordate means any chordate. I mean, if I am talking about a fish, if I am talking about a dog, if I am talking about an elephant, if I am talking about a human being also, then at some given point of time in life, when they were developing inside their mother's womb, at that time, in the initial stages of life, every chordate has at one given point of time has looked like this in their life. All right, so let's see what are the what exactly features are seen over here on this in this diagram. First of all, the most important, if I want to call it as a chordate, then there has to be a notochord. Okay, so this is the notochord present there. Then there has to also be a dorsal nerve cord. Now when I am saying nerve cord, until now all of the phyla that we had seen in the invertebrates, all of them, they did have a, I can say that they did have a nerve cord, but the nerve cord over there was always placed ventrally, right? Over here, now when we come to chordates, this is going to be the part where we will always find the nerve cord to be situated dorsally. All right, even for our body, if you think nerve cord, can I include the spinal cord there? And where is your spinal cord? Isn't it on the back side? That is the dorsal side. So in the chordates, the nerve cord is always located, situated dorsally. All right. The third important salient features of a chordate would be the pharyngeal gill slits. All right. So these parts that you're seeing here, this part here, these are the pharyngeal gill slits. All right. So the first thing that we had seen, this here, this is the notochord. Okay, second, the dorsal hollow nerve cord, that's this right here, that's the nerve cord. The whole blue region that you're seeing is the nerve cord. Third, when we talk about the pharyngeal gill slits, well, when we say they are gill slits, then you all know that gills means that it is going to be linked with respiratory system. So the gill slits ultimately in different organisms will be developing into the different respiratory organs. But over here, remember, these are the initial form. In all chordates, we're going to begin with pharyngeal gill slits. And the fourth feature, remember there are how many features? There are 4 features. Okay, so 4 salient features of chordates, and the fourth one is the presence of a postanal tail. All right, so that is the fourth one. So we see here that there are 4 salient features of the chordate. Which are those? These are very important, children. 4 salient features. First begins with the notochord. Second, the dorsal hollow nerve cord. And third, the gill slits, the pharyngeal gill slits, and the fourth one being the postanal tail. So there are 4 salient features we need to remember. Now, further what we're going to be doing now is discussing each and every one of these points. First, we'll discuss what the notochord is, the nerve cord, the gill slits, and some features about the postanal tail. So, shall we begin? Are you all with me? If you're with me, do hit a like button. Okay. Alright. Now, let's see here. The very first point we're going to be talking about is the notochord. Where is the notochord here, children? Just locate that notochord, and here it is. This exactly is the notochord which we are going to be talking about now. Okay. So, let's begin. This notochord, where is the notochord here? Can you all help me locate where is the notochord? And here it is. This is where the notochord is. Can you see that? So, we see here that the notochord, it is a flexible rod-like structure. Okay, it's a flexible rod-like structure. It is flexible, remember. When the vertebral column comes, that's when the bones come, and that's when the rigidity and the strength and the support would start coming into existence. Right now at this stage, such a primitive stage, it is a flexible rod-like structure. Okay. Now where is it located? Let's see where the notochord is over here. Here it is. Okay, I'm just coloring it in red. This is the notochord. And where is it located? It is located in the mid-dorsal line. Okay, so first let's take it word by word. When I say that it is a mid-dorsal line, first of all understand that it is in the dorsal. Mid means in the central part. Okay, so it is situated in the mid dorsal line. And where is it exactly? It is a structure which is found between which two things? Between first the gut, means the intestine or the digestive system. So here if you see, there is the mouth, okay, the pharynx, this is the stomach, as you can see, the intestine and the anus. So may I call this whole structure here, okay, if I highlight that structure, if I call this whole structure over here, I'm going to label this as the digestive system, okay. So on one hand over here below, we have the digestive system, okay. This is the digestive system, and on top over here, this over here, the yellow color structure that you're finding here, that is the nerve cord. Alright, so we have two structures, one the digestive system, second the nerve cord. Between both of those, there is the presence of this notochord here. Okay, so that's why it said that the notochord is situated along the mid-dorsal line between the gut and the nerve cord. Okay, alright, let's continue. Now we see here that the notochord is the first part of the endoskeleton to appear in the embryo. Okay, so the first part in the whole embryo, during development of the zygote, the first part that is going to appear is the notochord. Alright, where is it derived from? It is derived from the embryonic chorda mesoderm. So basically we can say that the notochord is a mesodermic structure. Alright, it is also seen that it is made up of a core of vacuolated cells. Okay, so look at this here, over here there is a cross section given here, okay, and in this cross section this is one sheath here, this is another sheath here, and this is another sheath here. Okay, so we see that it is made up of a core of, first of all, the innermost layer is that layer which is going to be made up of vacuolated cells. Okay, above that layer there is a inner and an outer layer. Okay, above that vacuolated cell layer there is an inner layer which is thick and it is fibrous. All right, and then there is one more layer. So basically we can say that the notochord has three layers. Okay, innermost layer is made up of vacuolated cells, then the middle layer is a thick fibrous layer, and then the outermost layer is made up of thin elastic connective tissue sheets. All right, so basically these are the different layers of the notochord. Remember, notochord is a flexible structure. It is persistent. Sometimes what happens, generally we would always think that the notochord is going to eventually, we would assume that it would give rise to a vertebral column. But that's not true. It's not in the case of all the organisms. Sometimes the notochord remains as a notochord only. Sometimes the notochord just disappears, and sometimes the notochord will develop into a vertebral column. So we see here that in animals like lancelets. Okay, now what are lancelets? We'll be doing that when we study Urochordata and Cephalochordata. So in animals like lancelets that you see over here, okay, this is a lancelet. So it is, this notochord is going to remain persistent, means that the notochord will stay as a notochord throughout its life. The notochord is not going to develop into a vertebral column. Okay, even in cyclostomes and in fishes, okay, and in the group of chondrichthyes. So we basically see that the notochord remains as a notochord in these animals. In fishes like cartilaginous fishes, okay, so these cartilaginous fishes are not going to be developing a vertebral column, otherwise they would become bony. So that's why we say that these are persistently, the notochord is going to remain over there. Alright. Now we also see that the notochord, okay, it is present in the tail of the tadpole larva, okay, tadpole larva of an ascidian. Now if you see this diagram here, this is the diagram of a ascidian, alright. Now it is actually, when it is present, when it is in the larva stage, that's the time when this notochord is present. As it is heading on and moving on towards its adulthood, what happens is the notochord is lost. And what type of development is this, where in the larva stage that notochord is present, but then in the adult stage it is disappearing, or you can say it is degenerating. Over here this is called as a retrogressive metamorphosis. Now metamorphosis is the process by which the larva form is going to develop into an adult form, right? That's what we know as indirect development when a larva form is present. Now when I call this as retrogressive metamorphosis, this means that there are going to be certain degenerative changes. Degenerative changes. Okay, so degenerative changes in the sense what? In the sense that this animal, from being in a larva form, which is very active, which is very like swimming around or moving about, but as that larva form is going to turn and transmit into an adult, then the lifestyle of that animal becomes sedentary. So it is losing all its activity, it's losing all its activeness, and it's becoming sedentary. So these are actually, we're going to be calling these as the degenerative changes. And these degenerative changes are actually called as retrogressive metamorphosis. Alright. So retrogressive metamorphosis means that when the larva form is active, but the adult is going to be sedentary. Okay, so that's the meaning of retrogressive metamorphosis. Alright. Next, when we see generally the notochord, either as we saw in these organisms that the notochord stays as a notochord, or it may even get lost when it becomes an adult. And one more possibility which may happen with the notochord is that it might be replaced completely. The notochord is going to be replaced with the vertebral column. So we see here it is either replaced partly or wholly. By what? It is replaced partly or wholly by the vertebral column. Okay, that too in whom? In adults of higher chordates. Alright, so the notochord could be completely replaced, as like in us we are considered to be higher chordates, okay, and in our adult stage. Alright, so those were all the possibilities of the notochord. We saw three possibilities that were the fate of the notochord, you may say it as. Well, the notochord may disappear, okay, it might be present in larva form but then disappear in adult. There may be some organisms where notochord is going to remain as a notochord throughout the life, or there may be also some organisms where the notochord is actually going to be developing into a vertebral column. Now, when this notochord develops into a vertebral column, at that time, in that vertebral column, we may see remnants of notochord. Okay, so let's see in this diagram over here, these two structures that you are seeing, this is your vertebral column, right? This here vertebral column, and if you were with me for those connective tissue lectures, then this children here is cartilage. Okay, these were called as intervertebral discs. All right, so when we talk about these here, when we talk about the remnant of the notochord, then these are actually occurring in your vertebral column. And where is it located? Look at this structure here. This exactly this structure dot in the middle that you are finding is called as nuclei pulposi. What is it called as? It's called as nuclei pulposi. And where is it present? In the intervertebral discs of mammals. All right, so you know that the notochord is actually going to develop into a vertebral column, but a remnant is present, and this is showing us that before this vertebral column the notochord was present. All right, okay. Now, so we're done with the first point, that was the notochord. Now we head on towards the second point which we're going to be discussing, and that is the dorsal hollow nerve cord. Remember the four salient features of phylum Chordata. Which were they? Tell me fast. First feature was notochord. Second feature was nerve cord. Okay. Third feature is pharyngeal, gill, slits, and fourth feature is postanal tail. Alright, so remember four salient features, out of which we have done the notochord. Now we are moving on towards the dorsal hollow nerve cord. Alright, so let's begin with this. Well, when we talk about this dorsal hollow nerve cord, let us first just identify where exactly are we talking about. That's this part over here. Okay, this part right here, this is the dorsal hollow nerve cord. That's what it is over here. Okay, so this is the dorsal hollow nerve cord. Now, this is single. All right, remember when we talked about arthropods and all those animals where we had seen that there was a double nerve cord. Okay, over here it is single, it is hollow, and it is tubular, and it is filled with a fluid. Okay, so all of these properties are belonging to that of the nerve cord. It is single, it is hollow, it is tubular, and it is going to be filled with a fluid. Alright, where is it located? It is situated right above the notochord. So children, where exactly is the notochord over here? Here is that notochord. And we see that the nerve cord is situated right above it. Alright, so it is situated above that notochord, and it is situated also below the dorsal body wall. When you see this structure over here, okay, in this structure, where is the dorsal side? This here, dorsal. Okay, and this part here, ventral. Okay, so you have dorsal and you have ventral side. So where is this located? It is located above below the dorsal body wall, because this here, okay, this over here is the dorsal body wall, and the nerve cord is right below it. Okay, now we see here that it is non-ganglionated. Do you remember what was ganglion? Come on, tell me fast. Do you remember what was ganglion? Ganglion was a group of cytons. Many cytons put together were forming ganglions, right? But here there's not going to be ganglions. So what is going to be there? If ganglions are not present, then naturally you know that there's going to be structures like brain, right? So first we see that it is non-ganglionated. Also, we see that this is also a structure which was produced at the stage of embryo. Okay, so it is produced in the embryonic stage. And how is it produced? It is produced by sinking in. Okay, sinking in of what? Sinking in of the median dorsal strip of endoderm above the notochord. So basically what you need to remember here is that this is a structure which is derived from the ectoderm. Okay, and this is the reason, this is the basic reason why when we're going to be studying the whole unit of nervous coordination, then every system or every part of the nervous system is strictly derived from the ectoderm, because look at this here, this basic embryonic structure of the dorsal hollow nerve cord, that structure itself is derived from the ectoderm, okay, and that is why the whole nervous system, each and every organ, each and every gland of our nervous system is ectodermal in origin. All right, as I said, if there are no ganglions, then what exactly is going to be present? There's going to be the presence of these advanced organs, and we know that our advanced organs in our nervous system are none other than the brain as the anterior end of this, of the notochord, and the spinal cord as the remaining part. So the anterior part forms the brain, and the remaining part of the notochord is going to contribute in the formation of the spinal cord. All right. Okay, let's continue ahead. So we are done with, out of the four salient features, we have completed the notochord and we have completed the nerve cord. Coming to the third one, the third important salient feature belonging to a chordate would be the presence of these pharyngeal gill slits, or you may call these as pharyngeal gill clefts, okay, gill slits or gill clefts. Now, let's see what this is all about. So now this is the part where, and this is the time rather where you need to understand that just because I'm saying the word gills, I am not only talking about fishes. Gills, at some given point of time in your life, children, even you had gills. Could you believe that? So pharyngeal gill slits, let's get started. Now, these are going to be a series, okay, so there are many of them, and they are one located parallelly, and they are lateral perforations. Now what's the meaning of lateral? Whenever you have a body, okay, or let's say this is a given structure, okay, then this part here will be called as the medial, okay, anything towards the body wall, those would be indicating lateral. Okay, so you have medial and then you have lateral, all right. So these are a series of lateral perforations in the wall of the pharynx through which, okay, now pay attention here, okay, pay attention everyone, through which water flows out from the pharyngeal cavity. Now, if I'm talking about gills, then naturally this was for gaseous exchange, right? So through this whole region, in the wall of the pharynx, water is going to be able to flow out from that pharyngeal cavity. All right. These are these pharyngeal gill slits are basically ectoendodermal in origin, and in certain animals they are persistent throughout life. In animals like us who are belonging to higher chordates, these are the systems which are going to be slowly developing ahead, and respiratory organs will be formed. So here they are persistent throughout life in protochordates. Which were protochordates? The ones which are not going to be forming a vertebral column. They will have a notochord definitely, but either the notochord disappears or the notochord is going to be remaining as a notochord throughout its whole life. Okay, so these are found in protochordates, in fishes, and in amphibians as well. Okay, all right. So these are those animals. These three are those animals where these pharyngeal gill slits are going to be persistent throughout life. Okay, all right. Now, the walls of the pharyngeal gill slits, okay, the walls of these gill slits become vascular, okay, so they develop vascular lamellae. First of all, let's break this word up. When I talk about vascular, then this means that this is going to be rich in blood supply, okay, rich in blood supply. So vascular lamellae, a vascular layer. So here the walls of the pharyngeal gill slits, they're going to be developing vascular lamellae, and they're going to become gills, especially like that, like you see over here as in a fish. Okay, so this is basically when they have the gills here, the gills have capillaries in them, okay, and the capillaries which are present in gills, okay, whenever a fish is swimming in water, the fish will be swimming in its own pace. Water will be flowing in its own pace and direction. Did you know that whenever a fish swims, at that time, whatever be the direction of water, the blood inside its gills are going to be flowing in an opposite way. So, if the fish is swimming in water which is flowing this way, okay, the fish is also flowing this way in the same direction as water, then the blood inside the gill slits or the blood inside the capillaries is going to be flowing in an opposite way. So, water is flowing in this direction, but the blood inside the gills are flowing in the opposite direction. This is actually going to be helping in creating a counter current. Why am I calling it as counter current? Current basically means it is flowing. Counter current because these are two fluids which are near each other, water and the blood, which are near each other and they are flowing in opposite directions. So that's why I can call this as a counter current mechanism. Alright, so the walls of the pharyngeal slits, they develop the vascular lamellae to become gills. Okay, then over here these gills are strictly, we know that they are going to be responsible for exchange of respiratory gases. All right, okay, let's continue. We see that these gill slits are present in certain animals in their larval stages. What do you see over here? This animal that you're seeing here is a tadpole. Okay, it is a tadpole. So it is present in the larval stages, but it could be that the gill slits disappear. And when you see animals like the frog, okay, so the tadpole is ultimately going to develop into an adult form called as the frog. But do frogs have gills? Not at all. If the frog happens to go in water, then in water frog is going to be breathing through its skin. And on land, this very same frog will be breathing through its lungs. So, did you hear gill slits anywhere? Not at all. But when we talk about tadpoles, then tadpoles have these gill slits. Okay. So, tadpoles have gills, whereas when they develop into an adult frog, the gill slits are absent. So, how does the frog respire? Through skin and through lungs. Skin when it's in water and lungs when it is on land. All right. Okay. Now, when we talk about animals which are amniotes, now what exactly is an animal that is an amniote? An amniote means that this is an animal. Look at the chordate over here. Can you see that small chordate over here? Okay. I hope you can locate it now. This here is the chordate. Alright, so this is basically how even you are looking at some stage of your life. Okay, now what is an amniote? Amniote means when that embryo is actually surrounded by this amnion layer. Okay, so can you see this layer over here? So when you see that the embryo is surrounded by that amnion layer, that is an animal which we're going to be calling as an amniote. So amongst the amniotes, okay, the non-functional pharyngeal pouches appear in the early embryonic life, but then they are later going to disappear, which means that even in our body, okay, like why are these non-functional? Because when we talk about these organisms, this is exactly how a human is developing. Okay, now here respiration is not to be done by this embryo. How is the respiratory gases coming inside and how is this baby getting the respiratory gases? By the mother, because there is the presence of a link between mother and fetus. That link is called as the placenta. Okay, so these organisms have, these amniotes, they have placenta present for exchange of gases. So that's why their pharyngeal pouches here are said to be non-functional, because they are not going to be doing the work of respiration at all. Okay, so they are present, but in the early embryonic stage the pharyngeal pouches are present, but later on they are going to be disappearing. All right, the occurrence of this here is showing, actually look at this sentence, very important sentence written here. These structures which are seen, okay, like the pharyngeal gill slits are actually providing a clue to us that somewhere down the lane our ancestry was aquatic. Okay, all right, so that's that. We have done the all the 3 points here. Which all points have we covered? Do you remember those? First we spoke about the 4 salient features. Out of that, the first one was called as notochord. Okay, the second one was called as nerve cord. Okay, the third one was the pharyngeal gill slits, okay, and the last one being the postanal tail. So let's see over here, we've come to the last point here, that is the postanal tail, okay, and which part are we talking about? This part right here, okay, the anal tail. So it is, the tail is seen to be found after the anus part has completed. That's why we're going to be calling this as the postanal tail. Alright, so we see here that chordates have a tail, and that tail is extending posterior to the anus. That's why we're calling it as a postanal tail. Alright, so it is posterior to anal region. In many of the species, we see that this tail is lost. Like us, do we have tails? Not at all. So in many species, the tail is completely lost, okay, and that too when? During the embryonic development only. You're not born with tails, are you? And then they don't disappear later on. And what exactly is this tail containing? The tails may have skeletal elements also and muscles also, but strictly there is not going to be any visceral organs, internal organs present at the level of the tail. There will only be skeletal and there will only be muscular elements found over there. Okay. Also, we see some uses of the tail in different animals. Different organisms, as per their body's requirement, they would be using that tail. Alright. First animal, it provides propelling force. So when we're talking about this fish over here, okay, the fish, when it wants to swim ahead, not only swimming ahead, even if that fish wants to, the direction in which it wants to swim, all of this is being done by that tail. Okay, so it provides the propelling force in locomotion of many aquatic species. Children, if you've ever gone boating, okay, that too by a boat, the normal boats, and you want to change the direction of the boat, that would be present also in the back end of that boat. Why is that? The concept came from fishes. So even the fishes, it is the rear end, okay, that the tail region, which is actually helping in steering. Okay, so it gives direction to the force, and that's why to that fish, and that's why we say that it is helping in locomotion of many aquatic species. Okay, all right. Also in some organisms, in certain animals, this very beautiful organism, okay, and this is called as none other than the kangaroo. The tail over here is going to be behaving as a balancing organ here, okay. So it is the tail which helps these organisms to balance themselves. Alright. Now let's see some other points which are important here. We see here that there are many features which are common, which are similar, seen in the chordates and also seen in echinoderms. Remember echinoderms? So along with the echinoderms, chordates are sharing certain characteristics, and which exactly are these? First, they are having a deuterostomate condition. Second, the cleavage that's happening here, it is radial and indeterminate cleavage. They have an enterocoelom, okay. Other characteristics which we see that are present only in chordates, the first 4 salient features we know, okay. Those are 4 salient features, okay. Which were those salient features? Those were the notochord, the nerve cord, the pharyngeal gill slits, and the postanal tail. But chordates have other characters as well. Which are those? Bilateral symmetry. They are triploblastic, means that they're going to be having endoderm, ectoderm, and mesoderm. Then their level of organization is always going to be strictly organ system level of organization, okay. They do observe metamerism, okay, metamerism, remember that, where internal is going to coincide with the external there, and so that's what we call it as metamerism. Then there would be cephalization, where a proper head region is able to be distinguished from the remaining part of the body. So there is cephalization. Then we see that there is a closed circulatory system where there's going to be a heart, there's going to be blood, and that blood is always going to be strictly flowing inside the blood vessels. So that's why we call this as a closed circulatory system, okay. And remember here that in chordates, the heart is located ventrally, okay. When we learnt about other organisms, we saw that, like when we learned in detail about the earthworm. We also learned about arthropods, insects. In all those organisms, the nerve cord is generally seen to be ventral, and the circulatory system, the hearts, are all seen to be dorsal. That was for non-chordates. But children, when we talk about the chordates, it is exactly the opposite, in which the nerve cord is found to be in the dorsal region, whereas the circulatory system, the heart, is seen to be in the front side, that is, it is ventral in position. All right. So these, along with the four salient features, these are other chordate characteristics which can be seen amongst us. All right. Now, when we come ahead, and if we're going to be classifying the phylum Chordata, then phylum Chordata can be classified into three different subphylums. Now, which are exactly those subphylums? First subphylum, Urochordata. Okay. Second subphylum, Cephalochordata, and the third subphylum being Vertebrata. So here, this is the phylum of Chordata. Then there are the subphylums. Okay. Subphylum, there is a subphylum, that is first subphylum Urochordata, second subphylum Cephalochordata, and the third subphylum, that is of Vertebrata. Okay, so there are three subphyla present here. Now when we talk about the Urochordata, Urochordata are those animals where notochord, okay, here the notochord is going to disappear. But when will it disappear? In adult. Okay, when we talk about the Cephalochordata, here the notochord is going to persist throughout life. Okay, and when we talk about the Vertebrata, this is where the notochord develops into a vertebral column. Alright, so these are the three subphyla present. Out of these three subphyla, when we talk about the Urochordate and the Cephalochordate, over there the vertebral column is not developing. That's why these are going to be called as protochordates. Okay, let me erase the rest part. Those are going to be called as protochordates, and this here is the Vertebrata. Alright, now what we see here is a proper flow chart that's going to be given here of phylum Chordata. So let's see here, we begin with phylum Chordata. Subphylum would be either Urochordata, or it could be Cephalochordata, or it may be Vertebrata. Okay, so three subphylum. Now, out of this, when we talk about the Vertebrata, okay, we're going to be studying all of this one by one. So pay attention here, Urochordata, Cephalochordata and Vertebrata. When we talk about Vertebrata, there may be two divisions. The first division would be called as agnathostomata. Why is it called as agnathostomata? Gnatha, we will see in the preceding lectures, gnatha means jaw. So it is a mouth which has jaw, and if it is a, that means absence. So the whole word agnathostomata means absence of a jawed mouth. Second division would be gnathostomata, where gnatha again jaw. So these are going to be animals in which the mouth has a jaw. Okay. After gnathostomata, the superclass seen are Pisces or tetrapods. Now, what exactly are Pisces? These are the fishes, and tetrapods. Now, when we speak about Pisces, remember fishes can be of two different classes. Which are those? This is going to be determined based upon what exactly their endoskeleton is made up of. Okay, so endoskeleton may be made up of cartilage, where we would call this as chondrichthyes, or the endoskeleton may be made up of bones, where we would call that as osteichthyes. Because if you remember, chondro is the word used for cartilage and osteo is the word used for bone. So there is chondrichthyes and then there is osteichthyes. Talking about the tetrapods, the four-legged animals, there would be amphibians, reptiles, birds, that is aves, and mammals. So children, what I'd like you to do is, just for your own reference, do take a screenshot of this page right now so you know what exactly is the bifurcation of phylum Chordata. Alright, now ahead of this, I have prepared one more distinguishing characteristic column, and this table is going to give you a proper distinguishing the main points, what exactly are different between chordates and the non-chordates which we have learned. Okay, so let's get a view of that too. When we talk about the chordates, okay, so when we talk about the chordates, the first thing that we see is that the notochord is present. Non-chordates, notochord is absent. We see here in chordates the central nervous system. Where is that central nervous system present? It is, first of all, it is present dorsally. So that central nervous system is dorsal. It is hollow, it is single, and it is non-ganglionated. Alright, so dorsal, hollow, single, and non-ganglionated. Alright, then when we talk about the non-chordates, the nerve cord is ventral. Okay, so here it was dorsal, over here it was ventral, exactly the opposite points. Okay, hollow nerve cord, solid nerve cord. Okay, it is always single. Over here, as I told you, in arthropods, if you remember, it was always double. There are no ganglions, that's why there was presence of brain and spinal cord. Over here, ganglions are present. You would not find brain, you would not find structures like spinal cord. Alright. Third points, pharynx is perforated by gill slits. Okay, pharynx being perforated by gill slits. Here, the pharyngeal gill slits are yet absent. Alright. Heart here in chordates is ventral in position, whereas when we talk about non-chordates, the heart is dorsal in position. That too, if at all the heart is present. There were many non-chordates which we had seen where there was absolutely no heart. Alright. Then, in the chordates, postanal tail was present. Remember, one of those 4 salient features of chordates that we learned. And in the non-chordates, the postanal tail is absolutely absent. There was no tail, there was no postanal tail at all, right? So children, these were the different features that we had seen all about the chordates, okay? So stay tuned with me. In our following lectures, we're going to be learning about the details of the, or rather the subphyla which we had discussed today, that was belonging to the chordates. Okay, we did those 3, Urochordata and Cephalochordata, are going to be covered in our next video. And we're going to be following this with vertebrata. We'll be learning all the things in detail, just so that you can be very much geared up for your NEET exams. Alright. Now, if you are a 12th standard student right now watching my lecture, then do pay attention on these tables that I have given. Okay, in the following lectures, we're going to be having all tabular form kind of approach towards it. So this is going to help you for your kingdom animalia study. Just watch the videos, and not only my videos, watch the other videos too. We've got physics, chemistry, maths, and biology, other lectures as well. Okay, also available in Hindi. If you'd like to watch that in Hindi, go to the Yupp Master channel on YouTube and you'll find all those lectures there. Alright, so do visit our platform, do subscribe if you haven't done so yet, and if you have actually found this lecture helpful for you, please do go to the comment section, do post a comment, give me a heart, give some likes, and do subscribe to the channel too. Alright, so what I'd like to tell you is that you've begun your 11th standard, you're not too late, you're just on time, you're doing a perfect job if you're viewing our lectures. And also one important thing I'd like to share with you is that many of the students have come in with their notes that they've prepared. Okay, many of the students who are yet now going to be giving their NEET exams, which are probably going to be conducted in September 2020. Okay, so they're coming with their notes, they're coming with their earthworm notes that they have made watching the lectures. I do encourage you to make your own notes, because actually that's gonna help you a lot. Okay, watching the videos is a great start, but then the start is only not enough. You need to be watching the lecture. You have the facility to pause the lecture, jot down your important points, and this would make your notes making quite fast and quite easy too. Here we've covered all the points which is actually necessary for your NEET exams. All right. Also remember one thing, that if you're enjoying these lectures here, you can download the Yupp Master app on your phone, okay, and you can access that app anywhere. And also one very important thing, that if in today's lecture, whatever lecture has been done, the same video will be found on your Yupp Master app, and over there you'll be able to even solve a daily exercise assignment that we've given. So basically whatever I have taught in today's lecture would be put into an assignment, and you would be able to actually solve that, just so that you would be able to know that your portion and you've understood the lecture well. So before we sum up the lecture today, let us just revise this here, where when we're going to be learning about the chordates ahead of this now, that chordates are divided into the subphylum called as the Urochordata, the Cephalochordata and Vertebrata. We'll be doing those now in the next lecture. When we spoke about, when we spoke about chordates, remember that there was a basic general feature of chordates. Which were those? Those were called as salient features. Okay, they were called as salient features. And how many salient features were there? There were total 4 of them. Okay, which were they? Let's just remember those. This is going to be very important for your MCQs. The 4 salient features of a chordate. How do you know that this animal in front of you is a chordate? So first of all, there has to be the presence of a notochord. Okay. Second, there has to be a dorsal nerve cord. Okay. Third, there's gonna have to be pharyngeal gill slits. Okay, and the last one being a postanal tail. All right. So children, I hope today's lecture, you viewed today's lecture and you're taking some info home. All right. So do stay tuned. If you've missed any of our lectures here, if you'd like to go back and revise your invertebrate phyla, go to our channel, and there is a separate playlist, and that playlist is made especially only for Kingdom Animalia, where my videos are there too. There are other videos also present in Hindi. If you'd like to watch them in Hindi, then do watch those as well. Okay, so you can, and in fact it's been created so easy for you that if you want to just study one phylum, just pick up that video, okay, and the name of that phyla is written there, and just watch that and you can make your own notes. Okay, so we have covered all the invertebrate phylums now until now, both in English as well as in Hindi. So do go to that playlist and you can find all those videos there, all the way from the general characteristics till the phylum of Hemichordata, and now we're gonna be proceeding ahead with the phylum of chordates. All right, so do stay tuned with us, children. Okay, and hope you had a great time today. I hope you all are doing well at home. Stay safe, and you guys take care of yourselves too. All right, so until our next lecture, I'd appreciate it if you'd make notes of this whole channel, of this whole lecture that we've done today, and you are prepared for our next lecture. What is the next lecture going to be about? The protochordates, okay, the ones where the notochord either is going to be disappearing in the adult life, or the ones where the notochord is going to be remaining as a notochord. Okay, so do stay home, do stay safe in these tough times, and keep the learning on. Do not stop learning. Keep watching videos.